Hi, everybody. This is Cindy Kabika and Lorelei and Shabani, of course, are here too. And this is the Soul View. We look at what's going on in the news, the biggest stories that are in the news, and we look at them from a soul perspective. And, it's been an interesting time for us with everything that's in the news right now. And we started looking at, how can we look at all this mess that's going on from a soul view, because it's all over the place in many different countries. So how can we really take a look at this? And when I step back and I ask Spirit about, what's going on and how can we take the soul view, I was told or reminded that this is a soul contract. And I'm like, yes, that's right. I recognize a soul contract when I see one. And I've forgotten this is a soul contract that we are living out globally right now. And it's up to us to take a look at who we are. We can't stop anything that's going on. We can view it and we can choose how to look at it without judgment. And we can say, okay, this is part of a soul contract, a bigger understanding than we even recognize maybe at this time. What we can do is we can remember who we are, we can remember what we want to do, and we can follow the 4 agreements. Now, the 4 agreements, Don Miguel Ruiz wrote this, and it's the Toltec teachings that he based his book on. And let me just hold it up here. So this is what we're going to talk about this week. And I'm so excited about this because this book is so meaningful to me, because it was one of the first books that ever jumped off the shelf into my arms. It actually put up a shield so I couldn't walk past it. I had no idea what it was, but it wouldn't let me even pass the table. And all of a sudden it was in my hands, tucked it under my arm, didn't even look at it. I was going to a book signing for a friend. I have lots of friends that are authors. And so I was there for her book, Carol, and she, and I went up there and after her book signing, she said, "What do you've got there?" And I said, "I have no idea." And I looked at it and I thought, the 4 agreements. Well, that's kind of interesting. And I thought, no, I don't have time. I'm going to read her book, so I don't have time to read it. And I kept trying to put it down. Have you ever had this happen, ladies? Oh, yeah. I tried to put it down and it wouldn't leave my hand. And I thought, okay, this must be important. And it's been life-changing for me. So I know that many of you know about the 4 agreements, but, and we started reading again, preparing for this show today. And Lorelei actually said, you know what? I think that we should do at least 2 shows, if not 4, maybe dedicate one of the agreements for the next 4 weeks and really make it a workshop or a real teaching experience. So that's what we've decided to do. Now, before we get into this a little further, let's go ahead and ask Lorelei for the cosmic weather. Lorelei.
Well, it's so interesting. We're talking about agreements tonight, to agree to something, and we'll be talking about that because the moon is in Libra, and that is the sign of agreement. It's, what are the agreements that we make with ourselves, with others? So, and of course, that wasn't planned because the moon was in Libra. We decided to do this. And then I went, well, isn't that beautiful that the energy of tonight cooperates with the theme, if you will. So the thing I want to share again, which I've shared before, but until August 27th, the planet Mars, the planet that drives us, the planet that propels us forward, what we're passionate about, what we desire, appears to go backwards, retrograde, since the 26th of June in Aquarius. So here's an opportunity for all of us, whether conscious of this or not, to live in life more authentically. In other words, like really owning the brilliance, the uniqueness of each of us. And it's a time when if actions feel curtailed, like in other words, why can't I move this forward? I'll just give you a good example real quick. I think I shared this either on the show or with you, Cindy. A week ago or less than that, there were 2 ways I was trying to go home, and there were roadblocks. Mm-hmm. I hit another one today where I'm going on where I always go near, and here's a roadblock. And I went, look at that. Okay, so what is that about? I'm sharing that with all of you to say, if anything in your life is appearing to slow you down, it's an opportunity, again, to go inside, to ask yourself, why am I doing what I'm doing? Where am I going? In other words, that whole, what is propelling the action that I'm taking? And I think for now that's good, because that's something that we're all having an opportunity to experience. So old angers can come up, if one feels restricted or confined, or I can't move forward. So my point being, what is anger? It's passion that does not have another outlet. It's the same energy. It's just the way it's expressed. So if you find yourself losing your patience more easily, or being irritated, just more quickly, or your fuse is short, or just go, okay, now I can become conscious of what's going on inside me.
Beautiful, beautiful. And, I want to say to everybody, as we are in this energy, really take the time to honor yourself during this and really look inside. I think that's one thing that I've been doing, which led us to this conversation. Don't you think? Look inside.
There's a huge difference between, well, I know this versus I am living it.
And that's a gift of a Mars retrograde, because I always remembered that I found this material compelling and I was excited about it. But, like anything else, you put things on the shelf, you take them off again. But in rereading this for the show, I was like enthralled. It was like I found myself reading sentences over and over and over again. I thought, wow, I'm really passionate about this. That's an opportunity, again, for all of us to reconnect to things that we've been excited about. Just thought, so thank you. That I forgot to say that.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Well, I want to say to everybody, introduce yourselves, say hi to each other. I'll let you chat over on the side there, or if you're on Facebook, right below, just say hi, and you can talk amongst yourself until we get to your conversation, and leave us questions and comments, any understanding that you have of the 4 agreements. We love to hear your insight, so please go ahead and put your comments in, and we will read them towards the end of the show. And also, if you are listening to us later on YouTube, hit the high five button. That's the hand or the thumbs up or whatever it is. Just give it a high five and like this video, and also subscribe to our channel. We would love to send you notifications when we put a new video up. So please join us each week. And again, this is going to be a 4-week journey for us. And I'm so excited about doing this because particularly right now, this is very meaningful. When we're seeing, and I'm going to call it like it is, the president of these United States saying one thing one day, different things throughout the day. It changes all day long, and you're going, wait a minute, he said this before, and now it's this, and now it's this. And then you see these news things, and we're standing in just disbelief. We can't change who he is. That's his soul contract. What we can do is our part of this contract, which is to stand in our own belief system and really examine how we believe and our way of being in this world. And, the 4 agreements for me is that. And Lorelei, I just want to, before we get into this, by the way, there is a question or a comment, I think that you have, Bonnie, before we get into this. And then I want Lorelei to talk about the beginning of this book, because that's what I found really fascinating.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we have that from Fred. Your timing is impeccable after yesterday's press conference. I don't believe that Trump, in brackets, not my president, is following any of the 4 agreements. I didn't vote for him or his friends in Washington, so I don't take any of his actions personally. I guess I'm assuming that his party will finally take action, but I know that it is questionable. Finally, I will do my best to support future candidates who show some willingness to work together. By the way, I have been teaching a workshop called Creative Collaboration for the past 10 to 12 years, in which I claim that compromise is a swear word. I say compromise is poison. Because everyone consciously and or subconsciously remembers what they didn't get. So compromise is a lose-lose solution where little, if anything, is resolved. Creative collaboration is a process that draws everyone into developing a win-win solution, which actually resolves the issue. I use politics as the perfect example of the failures of compromise. Thanks, Fred.
Cool.
You know, I like that. Compromise for me, when I hear that, is I'm not going to compromise my values to get along with what's going on politically.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't have to do that. I can decide to stand in my principles, you know, and what I know to be true. And so that's kind of what I hear when I hear that.
Well, and I love the term creative collaboration. I mean, I know that she's talking about a process.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Those words totally make sense to me. Creative collaboration. Well, you know, in getting ready for the show, I love having lunch by myself and taking a book with me. It's one of my favorites. Really, I love it. And so I went to Panera Bread and I took the 4 agreements, and I was going to go right to the 4 agreements. I'd forgotten that there was like 30 or 40 pages to get to what the 4 agreements are. So I found myself absolutely enthralled by how we've, all the things that we've been conditioned to, all the things that we've been taught to believe are all agreements that we've made. And when he talks about the domestication of the planet, like we're domesticated much like a dog or a cat is. Mm-hmm. And I thought, and we just go along and we believe these things. And then sometimes those beliefs get challenged. And then we have an opportunity to change our beliefs and the power in that. And so I was hanging out in that before I even reread Be Impeccable with Your Word. It was like, oh my gosh, we've agreed, all of us have agreed unconsciously to so many things that we have made agreements about. So we are really and that would make sense in terms of the cosmic weather, that we're in a period of looking at what we have agreed to, not just as a nation or not just as a job, but anything, a value, a belief, what we've agreed to, and if we're going to keep that belief or not, if we're going to keep that agreement or break that agreement. So, and again, with the moon in Libra, the reading of it was just so spoke to, well, wow, so what do we agree to? And then, of course, that's the whole big, long lead into, well, if you make these agreements, you can undo all those other agreements that you've made. I mean, this is real simple because I just reread it again and felt like I was about 8, like I was a kid reading this for the first time and getting it actually. A child would get this. It would just have to be written a little differently. But when you think about what we say to people and what we take on, so that's when I texted you, Cindy, and I said, God, I was thinking there's no way to try to pack all this into an hour, pack all 4 agreements, because if we look at anything going on in the world with this as the umbrella, in other words, we can rewrite anything, whatever any of these agreements are. So I thought that was really fascinating too, to, let's put world events under the 4 agreements rather. So,
Right. And instead of trying to talk about everything that's going on, because it's just too much. It's too much to take in. And we can do what we can do to, to stand in integrity with what's going on. You know me, I'm an action taker. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to march. I'm going to sign petitions. I'm going to donate money. I'm going to do what I can. If for you, that is meditating and sending out love and light to the universe, to the the government or whatever, then that's great. We each get to do what we can do. And in the meantime, live within our own integrity. And when I reread this too, when I started reading it, a lot of the belief systems that we were given, that we were told we must adopt, are fear-based. And I started thinking about, wow, I was raised Catholic, and guilt is, it's all about guilt. As my friend said, my Jewish friend said, "Oh, you're Catholic? I'm just Jewish. You got it worse than me."
I have both. I have both.
You got both. Oh my gosh.
Oh my God. I grew up an atheist. My dad was an atheist.
So, I remember sitting in the church. Well, I remember the first time God talked to me when I was 10 years old. And then I was told that was wrong. I can't talk to God, that there's, you got that chain of command. You've got to go to Mary. Mary
has to be in the middle. That's right.
And I can't talk to God, and I can't have these.
But I'm a Pisces. Of course I can talk to God.
Of course. And so I was really thinking about that in my upbringing and how those beliefs were imposed on me. And my mom even wanted to impose them on me again later in life. She actually left the Catholic beliefs for a while, and then she came back to it. And if that's for her, then I think that's wonderful. And I love her for that, because she's being true to who she is. And I also have to be true to who I am. And that's where, to me, that first agreement comes in. Be impeccable with your word. And that means the conversation that you have with yourself too.
Oh, I mean, it's everything we say to somebody else, it's the things that we believe. And and the way he talks about, we cast spells over people, and and I was in the drugstore for getting a prescription, and the woman behind the counter said something very empowering to the customer, which was, again, a belief. In other words, that there was an agreement there. She was saying, you're doing a really good job with this. Well, as he says, Ruiz, they can say, Michael, you're doing a great job. He doesn't take that on. Michael, you're doing a lousy job. He doesn't take that on either. But it was just interesting having read this and going, be impeccable with your word. And I thought the words that woman was speaking to the customer were impeccable in that moment. What she was saying to that woman was impeccable. It was without sin, as they talk about, right? And we think of sin only in a religious sense. He talks about sin is the act of self-rejection. It's the lack of self-love is the sin, which is pretty amazing to me and makes total sense.
Mm.
So Siobhan,
you can wound somebody with your words as well. It's like, how do you? So I've got this fly, I think, crawling on me. I've been feeling something. So yeah, I think words can harm. They can hurt. They can also lift up somebody.
Yes, and that I was just so present to her saying that to that woman, and I thought that's exactly what he's talking about in a little micro example there.
Yeah. Because I remember when I was much younger, my Scorpio energy, that ability to just cut somebody to pieces with words. So wham!
I'll just tell it myself, because I went through that today. And, here I am. I went for a run today. And a walk run, actually. I'm not fully running yet, but I went for a walk, and it was it's pre-election time. And this woman out at the library, I run through the library area and then into the park, and she stopped me, and she was it was a Republican thing. And she said something about, do you know about Republican so-and-so? And I said, I don't know if I doubt I'll ever vote Republican again, because I had in my mind the newscast that I'd just seen just before I'd gone for, out to exercise. And I thought, I just dumped that on her. Mm-hmm. That is not being impeccable with who I am.
Good for you.
You know, and I stopped myself.
Yeah.
And then she had walked off, and I wanted to go back and actually say something to her. And I kicked myself, and I said, I should have run up to her and just said, you know, I dumped my thoughts on you.
That's
and
beautiful.
You have your own understanding of what's going on, and I have mine, and I don't need to dump that on you, you know.
Well,
and I did, and so you know, I really caught myself in that moment, and I said, you know, I won't do that again.
But the awareness of it, you know,
Mm.
that you were aware, and you know, and the thing he talks about that to me is the most insidious of all of this is gossip, and we all do it. You know, and I'm much more aware of that now, of when I'm going to say something that really is a gossip kind of thing. It may not be cruel, but it's still gossip. And that, so when he says that all the other agreements really come under this umbrella, you know, be impeccable with your word, it has so many ripple effects. How you talk to yourself, how you talk to others, you know, how you hold something, and the whole, and you know what else I thought, ladies, was impeccability, which is, he's saying again, total self-responsibility. I thought, wow, this is Ho'oponopono again. I mean, it supports that these two systems of data, information, practices, whatever, support each other, because being impeccable with your word is being totally responsible for, again, what's said. Honey, please get the cat.
Being an impeccable cat, true to who he is.
She is absolutely. She's being impeccable.
Okay, I didn't know if it was.
She's been thrashing in the lip. I have a little kitty who's 2.5 months old that we just got on Monday.
Moxie.
Moxie.
That's right. Yeah, and even, you know, are you able to keep your word to yourself?
Yeah, exactly.
How often, and I mean, I've been guilty, I'm sure we all have been guilty. How often do we say, I'm going to the gym and I'm losing whatever, 10 pounds, right? And then 2 months later, it's like, oh, well, I'm disinterested. So we're not keeping our word to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's so much more powerful than when you first just say it. Be impeccable with your word. Okay, that sounds good. But when you really unpack it, it affects everything. I mean, it absolutely affects everything. So, I mean, again, what I found so cool is with Mars retrograde, again, this, you know, reconnecting again to any material or to what we're excited about in a time when we're more receptive. So what I'm hoping is that not only just us, but you folks will feel more receptive to this, as, you know, just whether you know the tool or not, or have revisited, because next week Mercury goes retrograde. So we're going to be, that's how perfect for us to revisit this while Mercury's retrograde. I mean, I didn't even think about that until just this moment. Now that we decided to extend it, because I was feeling anxious, and it was taking the enjoyment out of reading it again. It was like, oh my God, this is so profound, you know, to think about how we are raised and conditioned, and how perfect with the sun in Cancer to be revisiting that. And these things that we have so subtly, in many instances, agreed to, and how we can make new agreements. You know, we say that all the time, but this gives it a whole new meaning for me anyway.
Mm.
And we have to remember that words carry their own vibration.
Yes.
And we manifest that. It becomes our reality when we speak things. And we also, when we tell somebody else the way that they should be, then we're trying to take their power away from them.
Right.
So, you know, yeah. And I even found myself doing that for just a split second today. I told you ladies that last week that my daughter had just gotten engaged last Wednesday, and we've been planning the wedding, and she's so excited. She's so creative. The things that she's planning for this wedding, she's having a Sunday brunch, and she's gonna have, it's on St. Patrick's Day with this, and she's getting baristas to come in and make Irish cream coffee, and they're going to have waffles and chicken, which they love. That's like their favorite breakfast. So they're going to have all this breakfast food. And then she was showing me her dress that she really likes, and she said, and I'm going to wear some Chucks with this, some Converse. And I'm just like, you're going to do what? You've got this beautiful wedding and you know.
Some Chucks? I don't understand the word.
They're Converse tennis shoes.
Like
tennis shoes.
Okay.
And I'm going, with that beautiful dress, that's a small fortune, you know? And I'm like, you know, I'm not being impeccable with her own understanding of what she wants. I have to let that all go. And I just need to be impeccable by saying, you know, Sarah, that's not, you know, that's different for me, but it's who you are. And you have to be true to who you are and really watch the words that I choose, because I don't want to judge her. Everything that she's done is exactly the way that she wants to be, that she's been dreaming for it to be for a long time. And with just a few words, I could have ruined, you know, this mood that she's in. And instead I had to step back and go, I need to be impeccable with my words, because they do carry a vibration. And I would do nothing to ever hurt her or to, you know, downplay what she's doing in any way. And I was about to do it, and I was able to stop myself. Yeah. So how can each of us stop what we're about to say when we want to cast judgment on someone else?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's interesting that you say that, because I've noticed recently there were a couple of occasions where I wanted to react to something that somebody close to me said. I so wanted to, and I didn't. I went, wow, look at that. You didn't say what you might have said 6 months ago. So my point is, I think we really need to be celebratory, like to celebrate the fact that you were aware of that, you know, because we know awareness is the first step. Just those little things like, look, I didn't come back with a biting remark to that person or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. But again, even in terms of, he uses the example of somebody who had a particular teacher. Oh, that person was such a jerk and blah, blah, blah. That's not being impeccable with our word, you know? So, I mean, and he uses, of course, the word poison throughout all of this, you know, it's poison when we put all of that out. So, you know, much like putting poison on into the planet, into the garbage and recycling and all of that, it's no different. It's the same thing. I mean, and in the Bible, in the beginning was the Word. In John was the Word. So, I don't know, but you know, again, as I said, I got a whole deeper understanding of this, and how again, that the Four Agreements also is a way of life, like to me, Ho'oponopono and other things that people that we follow.
I want to briefly just tell everybody, if you are not familiar with the book, again, let me just hold it up. It's a fast read. If you want it to be a fast read, I use it as a study.
Mm-hmm. And Marcia said, can we read all 4 agreements, as I haven't read the book?
Okay, and that's what I was about to do is say, you know, I want to give all 4 agreements. The first one is be impeccable with your word. The second one is don't take anything personally. The third is don't make assumptions. And the fourth is always do your best. But the most important one is be impeccable with your word. And there is a little description here that I found on the web that I want to go ahead and read. For those of you who have not read the book, words carry a powerful vibration that create your reality. And when used in alignment with the higher good, they are magical, forceful builders of the most amazing life. Mm-hmm. And, you know, the goal here is not to become a yes person and agree with everybody's way of being. That's not what this is saying. You can say, you know, I look at that differently than you do, but I'm anxious to hear what you have to say, or I'm excited to hear your different point of view. And you can still feel differently afterwards and honor that other person and honor what you have to say as well. Mm-hmm. If you are impeccable with your words and really understand that vibration, because it can be magical.
Yeah.
And it's not easy.
Keep your word. Can you keep your promise?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And let's see here if there's anything else here. When you practice an aligned way of speaking, both internally and externally, and release any judgment or blame by speaking from this place of judgment, then you are in the kindness of truth. The kindness of truth. I love that.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
So I remember when this came into my life, and I had a series of really difficult things going on. And at this time, I was in a big time judgment state about what was going on. And so it could not have come into my life at a better time. In fact, I got these cards, soul coaching cards. Are you familiar with it? Either one of you or anybody out there? Denise Lynn?
Oh yeah. Yes.
Yeah, yes. She has these soul coaching cards, and I got them, and that was another thing that I couldn't pass by without picking them up. And after I got this book, by the way, I came home, set it on the shelf, and I thought, I'll read that someday, but it wasn't something I chose. It was chose for me. So I just set it on the shelf and didn't think about it. Well, then I was at this event and saw these, I couldn't get past this shelf. I turn and look, and there's soul coaching cards. And I thought, okay, I'm supposed to have these too. I don't even know what they are. Oh, they're oracle cards. I don't know anything about this. I don't know how to read them. And so I went back to my room after I bought them, and the first card that I picked is impeccable.
Oh, wow.
For the next 17 times that I did a reading for myself, I chose impeccable 17 times in a row. My husband even took the deck and said, let me do it. He did it for me, pulled the card, impeccable.
Wow.
And it happened 17 times in a row. And then I was downstairs dusting the shelves, and I saw the book. And I thought, oh, that's cool. The 4 agreements, I wonder what they are. And so I skipped forward. And then the first agreement was, be impeccable with your word. And I knew that Spirit was telling me at this time, in this difficult situation that I was going through, that I had to be impeccable with my word. And after I got that, I sat down and read the chapter and really got it. I never drew the card again until I think about a year ago I drew it.
Wow.
And that's been years ago. That was more than 10 years ago. And it was just so amazing to me that once I got the message, I didn't draw the card anymore.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have something from Anne. One of my favorite books, the one on assumption, helped me move forward on buying a condo I wanted, but assumed something about what Rudy felt when checked it with him was not true. Okay, so Rudy is probably your partner. Yeah.
Okay, anything else? And I'll check over on Facebook while you're looking to see what other comments we have.
Now, Satprem says hi, that she has to get another book because she gave hers away years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know if I had given mine away or not, because I love to give these as gifts.
Mm-hmm.
And, when I was going through this, particularly the beginning of this and then into that first agreement, I thought it should be required reading for everyone who serves the people. I think it should be required reading.
To me, it should be required reading for being human on the planet.
True.
Yeah, I thought it should be in school.
Read in school.
Mandatory.
Yeah.
In schools. Yeah.
And when I read that, what'd you say?
We would have a better world.
Oh my
gosh.
gosh.
Everyone, just this one agreement would be integrated.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, and really, when you think about it from the standpoint of the piece of when we want to spew our poison at somebody else, that piece, forget, well, not, he doesn't say forget, he says self-abuse is the biggest thing. He says, we think other people have abused us. There's a great deal of self-abuse that goes on.
Oh, totally.
But again, to just take a breath, to just be aware, boy, I really want to slam this person or this politician or whoever, or I really want to put that post on Facebook, and to take a breath and go, nah, you know what? Let me say the prayer, the hope, or let me just go for a walk, or let me breathe, or let me, whatever it is. Again, each of those different agreements we're making, different decisions about how to handle something, all of that, it's like it builds up the change, it's like hitting critical mass at some point, I mean, if just thought for a moment, wow, do I really want to spew that poison right now? Would I really want that poison spewed at me? If we can't get that, do we really want to spew it out there, turn it around, and boy, would I want someone coming at me with what I'm going to come at that person with? I mean, again, it goes far beyond that, but certainly that's a major piece of this.
And you can, like I said before, you can express yourself and your own opinion on things without pushing them on someone else.
Right.
Without saying you must believe exactly like me. And how many of us have done that? How many of us have been reactive, just like I was today?
Yeah.
I had just watched the news. I had been resisting watching any of it because my body is healing still. I'm trying not to have that negative energy because I believe that, angry mindset equals angry scars.
Mm-hmm.
And it inhibits your body's ability to heal. Well, isn't that impeccability?
Totally.
I want to stand in the light of healing, not these angry words, but I had to go back. Everybody's been talking about it, so I did. And that's what was on my mind. And what did I do? I spewed on somebody else. It was a reaction. And she didn't deserve this. I don't know where she's coming from. Just because somebody's a Republican doesn't mean they agree with the everything that's been going on. And I didn't take the time to find that out. I just judged, just in that split second. And we do that. And we can also forgive ourselves. And by the way, when I walked away and I didn't go back to her because I saw her leaving, and I didn't rush over to her, which I wished I would have. But as I walked back to my car, I said the Ho'oponopono prayer. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. And I said it to myself.
Yeah.
And I said, it was just a reactive moment because I was in disbelief still, and so I had to let that go, forgive myself for being there. Of course, we're all going to react. We're human. And I sent her love and light.
Yeah.
And that's what you can do. And that's a powerful vibration. So even if I didn't get a chance to say it to her directly, I can send her that positive energy.
Totally.
Yeah. So again, I want to welcome everybody's comments. Looks like there's a couple more comments over there, Shivani.
Yeah, I didn't realize that exists. So Maureen says, I also love the sequel to his book, The Fifth Agreement.
Yeah, that's great.
Learn to listen. Okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Let's see here. I just want to go over to Facebook real quick. I had to open it on my other computer here. For some reason, it won't let me do it on this one. So let me look at the comments here. Cindy says, hi, everybody. Aretha says, hi. She loves your Miracle Minute, Lorelei. She said, just loves it. Richard says, I'm a Pisces too. I'm a Pisces. And he was raised by his mom, but she didn't, like Shivani, didn't have a particular religion. And, I think a lot of people...
It has its own problems, I tell you, especially if you have a dad that believes nothing else exists except his 5 senses. Yeah. So nothing is better than the other. But at least I haven't been indoctrinated. My rebellion was that I read the Bible when I was 14 just to piss off my dad.
Oh my
There's
goodness.
the rebel.
Well, there's a lot of wonderful teachings, and this is something that I heard somebody say and talk about impeccability. When I first started studying the Bible and actually the history of how the Bible came to be as it is in its current form, because I found a lot of inconsistencies when I was in Bible study. And I used to, by the way, everybody, I used to be a song in song ministry years ago, and very huge part of my life. And then I started seeing these inconsistencies, and I wanted to know, it was like there were missing pieces that I wanted to know what the rest of the story was. And so I heard somebody say, the book is perfect as it is. It is the history. It tells a historical story, as well as being, the Bible that everybody considers to be very important. It also tells the history of where we've been in our belief system. And it is a great book. And there are also other great books too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That this is like the Four Agreements. And talk about being impeccable. I think about that and I went, wow, yeah. We don't have to diss that if you don't believe the Bible, and a lot of people still do, or they look at it and they go, okay, there's another part of the conversation. It is perfect for what it needs to be for many people, or it wouldn't have been around this long,
Yeah. I mean, again, what I love about the whole agreement piece is we've agreed to so many things unconsciously that we never knew we agreed to. Now we can make agreements consciously. And it's interesting, Cindy and Shivani, I was thinking today, one of the things I say in my work often is you and your soul and God, the divine, made an agreement. Well, I like those agreements.
Yeah.
I mean, because that's the word I use. I use the word agreement. And I thought, wow, interesting that I've always used, maybe it's because I'm a Libra, but that I've always used that word. So I thought today, wow, that to me perhaps is more of a conscious agreement, maybe perhaps, than the agreements that we've just kind of gone along with. I was just thinking about how we sort of beat the individuality out of kids. And again, you must obey these rules to live on the planet. So really, in a way, just like Ho'oponopono was about cleaning, I would think from a Four Agreement perspective, life is about breaking the agreements that we've made and making new agreements, because we free up power when we do that. He talks about
I would add that the agreements, especially when you're young, are made for you.
Absolutely.
Right.
We're brainwashed.
Yes.
Because and then we don't question quite often.
Exactly.
Yeah, and examine, well, are the agreements really my agreement, or is that I'm just following everybody else? Yeah.
And it takes a lot of courage to break old agreements, because those old agreements are comfortable. They're familiar family. A lot of those are family agreements, of course.
Yeah. And then going back to the Catholic thing, when I first started looking at everything differently and doing my research, I wanted to make the Bible as it was wrong because of the new studies that I did. I wanted to tell anybody that would listen to me, and that's low vibration.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very low vibration, and now I understand that, and I can let go of the guilt, because that guilt, when I first started questioning things, that guilt came up.
Yeah.
And then I had some people attack me about it. And every now and then still people will do it, but I don't have to go there, so I have a different understanding, and can honor that and still be impeccable with my own understanding of how this universe works.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the one agreement we are all under is we have free will. That's the name of the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how can we make somebody wrong when they basically just exercise their free will depending on their understanding where they're at right now?
Totally.
And here's another part of that I think is important for me, this was a big aha moment. The day that I said, why am I taking away somebody else's comfort by judging that?
Mm.
This is their belief system, not mine. I believe differently. And I'm taking away their comfort. I'm taking away their understanding. They have to come to a different agreement on their own.
Yeah.
But if this is what gives them hope, this is what propels them forward each day. Who am I to judge somebody else on that? And, that's being impeccable.
Yeah, and how we put our faith into those beliefs and agreements that were conscious or unconscious or whatever, and that becomes our faith. So, to have faith in something is not just I have faith in God. It can be I have faith in these lousy old agreements that I've made. That's where I put my faith. So that was an eye-opener to me too. It's like, oh my gosh, we think of faith as a great thing. Yeah, well, it depends what you have faith in. And if we have faith in this old unconscious agreement that we made or was made for us, but again, the good news is eyes are open now, and so for me, just to know, wow, I'm making a different agreement now. I'm taking some power back here, because we would project a lot of power into that old agreement, whether again, we made that agreement with a parent who's alive or not alive anymore. So like I said, when I texted you, I thought, there's no way we can do this this is like too important was what I was thinking. It's because we could take, as I said, any event that's going on in the world and frame it from a for agreement perspective. Now we can't do that tonight, obviously, but if you think about it, since that's what we're bringing is the soul view to whatever is going on. So I'm really jazzed by this.
I am too.
And we all need to be on the planet at this time, and I'm sure that 50 years further, everybody looks back and goes, oh my God, this was just the most amazing time. It was, the change and right.
Absolutely.
We are really in incredibly exciting times, although it might be tumultuous and chaotic, or it looks like it, but we are all agreed to be here.
Yeah.
And looking at the four agreements and the soul contract that's going on, to live with that impeccability, and each one of the agreements at this time, I think, is really key, because we've said this many times: when there's disorder on earth, there's order in heaven. Donald Trump so loved the world that he was willing to come here to be a total asshole, to create change that propels us forward, that makes, that starts women's movements and people speaking out like they've never done before, people asking themselves, wow, what about my own impeccability? What are my beliefs? I don't like this behavior, but what about me? And looking at myself, that's being impeccable.
Yeah.
Within the soul contract. That's our free will. We cannot look at it. We can choose to be angry, or we can look and say, it's interesting how this is all playing out, and I can be impeccable through this whole thing.
Yeah, and it starts with one.
Yeah, that's right. It starts with one.
And it starts with each little incident, each little something where you go, wow, look at that. I didn't say it, and really, really, because in not saying it to self or someone else, that is a great act of self-love. Totally. And
let me see, Denise said, had a potty mouth in my youth, and sorry about swearing there, by the way. That's actually a quote in how I start my book, by the way, about Donald Trump. So that was actually quoting myself. And then I explain what a soul contract is all about. And she says, and I hurt so many people. I truly regret it and have not forgiven myself. And this is a time, Denise, to embrace the Ho'oponopono prayer. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you.
And can I just want to say one thing about that, Cindy, because one of the questions that people keep asking me, because I've been very vocal and verbal about just that this is a major part of my practice, it's the core of my practice. we don't have to know who we're saying I'm sorry to. You can know, you can go, all of a sudden I can go, oh my God, I'm so sorry to my children about this. And then I may cry if I'm saying the statements, or it may be to myself, or it may be to God. Or so you don't have to try to figure that out. What's important is just to do it, not necessarily who are you saying it to. Sometimes it may be very clear, oh my God, I'm actually saying this to myself for whatever reason, or I'm saying it to my former husband, or I'm saying this to my mother or whomever, but you don't have to figure that out. So I just want to give that to folks, you know, because that puts you in the left brain again. It puts us in ego, and you don't need to go there. It's kind of like, it's just the cleaning process.
And, well, she goes on here to say, I'll use this information to forgive and pass and send positive energy to all I have offended. Wished I had known this earlier. Love the prayer you used, Cindy. Thank you. And
we love you.
Yeah.
And be loving to yourself. Be compassionate with yourself, because really you did the best you could back then, knowing what you knew, and now you know better.
Yeah. Right. And that's it. You
know, I've been such an asshole. But, or whatever you're saying to yourself, right? And we all have it. Yeah. I'm sure we all had incidences where we're really not proud of ourselves.
And you know, to me, part of the compassion is we were unconscious. Whatever we did from that place was not conscious. It was unconscious. If we now do things from that place, it's conscious. That's a whole different ballgame. But the consciousness of, oh my gosh, look how I used to talk to that person, or look what I said, or how I've been, and you know what? Every day is new. That's the point. So you can regret what happened, and you can go, okay, now I know differently. So I would imagine things in your life are going to speed up because of this recognition and awareness that you've had.
And remember,
if you feel moved to, you can always contact the people and say, look, this is my understanding now, and I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. And telephone them. Or,
also know that you were in a place of survival. You know, it's, and early on in our lives, that Maslow hierarchy of needs, the base is survival. And sometimes we lash out at people because we're trying to survive in a world that appears to be unfriendly, that appears to be attacking us. So when we live in that fear, then we're more reactive. And once we understand that we're coming from a place of fear, and we go, what am I afraid of, really? What am I afraid of? I don't have to be from this. And why do I want to lash out and hurt other people? And question ourselves. And then, you know, we start getting to that place where we start rising up and get to self-actualization and, you know, increasing our consciousness. And then you can go, wow, I've made it. But if it wasn't for that, you would have no need to change.
Right.
Well, that's it.
So much wisdom now.
Right. I mean, we have contrast. We need contrast.
We do, in order to learn.
Exactly.
Yeah, to get this divine wisdom. So it was part of the journey. Don't beat yourself up for it, and forgive yourself. Don't forget, when you're sending Denise this prayer out to other people, don't forget to send it to yourself. Say it for yourself, and just let it go and say, you know, I did the best I knew with what I understood, how I understood the life to be at that time.
And Denise, you're so loved. The universe, God, whatever you want to call it, is loving you. There's no judgment.
And you know that because of your new understanding. You know that you're loved. And then, let's see, Richard, let's see here. Speaking of being impeccable with your words, there is a poem which I've revived. I started writing it 20 years ago, and it's called "Where is the Freedom in This Land?" That's the one that we were going to do for the 4th, and we ended up not doing a show. So we would love to get that from you for the future, Richard. So if you're still on, please send it to us so that we have it. Okay. but it's a long one. So what we can do is post it. In fact, if you want to post it on our Facebook page here, that would be great, because it's 1,700 words. It's a book. Okay. Do we have any other comments up there?
Yeah, we do. For Marsha, Bible is a vast book. Conflict can come from people who read little of it or trying to understand it all. I read it like I read other books of learning or history, and I love it. Here are some verses. In God we live and move and have our being.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Let the same mind be in you as was in Christ, who thought it not robbery to be equal to God. I and the Father are one. I could sit and type out inspiring verses for 30 minutes.
You're beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sure I could for hours, and I love all those. So thank you for sharing those. And as I said, when I realized that that's a great book that comforts many, and there are other great books too. And that was divinely inspired, and so are these other books. And it took me a long time to really understand that, because like I said, I actually studied the history, and I wanted to shout it at everybody. Here's what's so interesting. I took this class on the history of the New Testament. By the time I got done, I had no need to make people wrong about it anymore.
Wow.
I just had to know. That's all.
Yeah.
And once I had the understanding, and I went, that is interesting. And it just left me completely. I don't know why. I guess it was the missing pieces, and now I can stand in, and speak about it with impeccability.
And I think you mentioned, the lack of understanding.
Yeah.
And lack of awareness. And that's neat, I think.
Yeah. So, and this is in every area of our life as parents, what we say to our children, what we say to our significant others, what we say to our animals.
Oh, yeah. They hear every word.
Yes, they do. And they respond accordingly.
Yeah. Wow.
I had this cat named Band-Aid, and a lot of people would have considered him not a good cat, especially in the beginning, because he was really temperamental. And he taught me patience. And when I started communicating to him as if he was human, in knowing that he was a spiritual being, he started responding, and he could talk to me in complete sentences. And people that would hear him go, that cat's having a conversation with you. I said, yes. And I knew what each one of these sounds that he made meant. And people that witnessed it, they said, how did you do that? And I said, I'm just honoring who he is. And he taught me patience and understanding, and to be impeccable with my words. Because when I was yelling at him, he became an angry, reactive cat. And when I took a different approach, he changed. And he ended up being my very best friend, my healing kitty for 16 years, almost 17 years.
Well, when we get that, again, animals come in to mirror our issues. They're such loving, loving vessels. But we talked about, we're going to do an animal show at some point.
Yeah, we sure are.
Vibration, right? So even if you don't hear what the animal says, consciously, they feel the vibration of love, or you feel the exchange.
Right now I have my my nephew-in-law and his wife are staying with me. And we were talking about spirituality, and I have this cat named Nickel, who is a scaredy cat, unless he feels spirit. And when he does, he feels safe to come. And he was outside, he was scared at first when they first got here. And then he started coming in and just looking into the room, and he knew that it was a safe place to be. When we are in spirit, we are in impeccability. We're sending out that vibration and it's proof when we witness it in our animals, because they can't judge it like we do. You know, we dismiss things, we judge things, we're reactive. All they know is what they feel. Mm-hmm. And he felt that safety of what we were saying. These were impeccable words for my kitty, because he could feel that energy. He could feel that vibration of the words we were speaking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. So any comments, any more comments? I think we have a few more there, Shivani. And I'll check.
No, I don't think so.
Mm-mm.
Okay. I can't see any other ones. Please, if you have some later. Sammy says, Chloe is her feisty cat. And me see, I have to speak with him very calmly, and he acts accordingly. Every morning he walks up and kisses her. That's love. And the same love that we give our animals, why shouldn't we extend that same kind of unconditional love to other people?
Mm-hmm. Totally.
And to ourselves.
And to ourselves. That's impeccability.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So any final thoughts that you ladies want to leave everyone with?
I just want to leave one with, if you come to any roadblocks in your life, whatever they are, whether they're actually physical roadblocks, or I just chuckled today again, it was the third time, or just emotional roadblocks, just take a breath and know that your spirit is talking to you, and you're having an opportunity to really more deeply understand what's driving and motivating you to do anything that you do. It's almost like with Mars retrograde, it's like pull back on the bow, but don't necessarily release the arrow now. It's like pulling back and aiming, but not necessarily, it's not time to release the arrow. It's time to be in that mode. So that's what I would leave folks with tonight.
And Shivani?
Yeah, I don't know. I loved what you said, or what we said together just before. You know, I love being impeccable is about loving yourself and loving others. And also what Lorelei said, if you are reacting, see whether you can take a few deep breaths, especially into your belly, and then respond. Yeah, it's about learning how to respond versus reaction, which is mind, like shooting from the hip. And I think it's a work, like we can choose to work with just this one agreement for our whole life, because it goes deeper and deeper and deeper.
Totally.
I love this. So for those of you who have the book, we want to invite you actually to go out and get the book. You can get the ebook, or you can get the audio book. It's also an audio. I've listened to it in the car. I've read the book. I've got it marked all over the place. And yes, I'm one of those people that mark in my book.
Oh, me too. Oh, gosh.
Color.
Yeah, colors.
They're notified by that.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't do that.
People, they don't.
He is German.
And Valerie says, Valerie just wants to say, everybody, she says, thank you, ladies, for your beautiful words. And I can't tell you how helpful this has been. And again, we can't change everything that's going on in the world. What we can do is look at ourselves and be impeccable with our own understanding of this world. And that's all we can do.
Yeah, change starts within.
Yeah. And by the way, I was telling you before the call, there was this lady named Carol that posted on Facebook, and I tried to go back to find her post and I couldn't find it. It's in there somewhere, but you get hundreds of feeds every day. It gets lost. But she was talking about a comment from someone a couple of weeks ago when she said, why do you have to talk about political stuff all the time? And what we said was, you know, we understand, we don't like politics either, but it truly is what's in the news. And when we decided to do this, we said we were going to take what's in the headlines, and that's what's in the headlines. And we have to honor that. That's impeccability. And she said, when I saw, you know, when I understood, she said, she reacted to it at first, and then she realized that we were being impeccable to what we committed to do. And she said, thank you so much. So she said, thank you, Cindy, Lorelei, and Shivani, and Ferris for that, for being impeccable, because the world does need to hear about this at this time. And we feel that very strongly. So we're being impeccable with our own understanding of what our life purpose is at this time. So to all of you, I want to thank you so much for being here and for being a part of the Soul View. Thank you for all your comments, and hi to everybody that said hi. Please comment amongst yourself, you know, have a conversation. That's what this is all about. And for those of you who are on our Facebook page, the Energized Living Today is where we broadcast, and it's where we make announcements. But for a private conversation, please go to the Soul View group, and that way you can interact with each other and really talk about your own understanding of the 4 agreements. And, you know, we'll come in from time to time too, and also comment, excuse me, and I'm sorry. I still got this cough going on.
Yeah, use it as a support group, and use it to grow community and be part of the Soul View community. Yeah, because in community we grow, and together we become stronger.
Right. Absolutely.
Thank you for taking that over while I had that tickle going on.
That was good, Shivani. You didn't miss a beat.
You didn't. That was perfect. That was perfect. So why don't you sign us off, being I'm going to start coughing again. Much love.
So I'll wish everybody blue skies, green lights. We'll wish you unlucky stars.
Yeah. Namaste. Lots of love.
Namaste.